Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our RAD virtual happy hour. We had to move things indoors because the rain threats haven't arrived yet, but the night is still young. So this month is Environmental Justice Month. Earth Day is coming up on Monday. So we've got some awesome speakers lined up for everybody to talk about environmental justice today. The first pair is going to be the lovely Evelyn Mayo and Misty as well joining us. So Evelyn is with the Rio Planning. It's a nonprofit that advocates for fair and affordable housing free from environmental hazards in South Dallas specifically. She also leads research and advocacy at Paul Quinn College, and she uses planning as a tool to address systemic racial injustices in Southern Dallas. She's going to bring us a primer on environmental justice as well as ways that we can help to fight back. And yeah, so she's joined by Misty O'Quinn. Misty works with Sierra Club and organizes locally for, is it downwinders or downwinders at risk?
Downwinders.
Downwinders. Okay, thank you. Yes, downwinders at risk, and she'll inform us of the work they are doing. So I know you guys have a busy night tonight. There's a big vote happening down at City Hall, so I don't want to keep you. And with that, I will go ahead and turn things over to two of you. So let me pin you and you. There we go.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much for inviting us and having us here this evening. Misty and I have been organizing together it's our 7-year anniversary this summer. So we've been through a lot of different campaigns, all in the realm of environmental justice and protecting people hit first, worst, and most by environmental issues in North Texas. So really one of our biggest theories of change is community organizing as the tool to both clean our air and improve our democracy. And so we've been using local land use planning as a way to separate people from polluters moving forward, as well as identifying tools to remove polluters that are harming communities today. So I'm going to let Misty share a little bit about the Joppe community that she has really spearheaded the organizing in since back in 2018.
Yes, so thank y'all for having me, Misty O'Quinn. As Evie said, we've been working together for quite some time, and our work started in Joppe. That was when we first started wanting to use community-based air monitoring as a tool for getting data to go to our local decision makers and say, hey, this is an issue, and to start conversations about separating polluters from actual neighborhoods. Joppe is a freedman's town, one of the few left here in Dallas. But we were contacted by some folks in the neighborhood, one of the local groups, and we started doing air monitoring there. And from the data that we got there, ideas were hatched, and it was like, well, we're working with UTD to start putting air monitors out in neighborhoods. So instead of using handheld monitors, how about we go ahead and get permanent monitors? So we were the first to go ahead and deploy monitors out in the neighborhood that were not government issue. And so that started in, what was that, 2019, 2020, when we got the first one up
Yeah.
ish. Unfortunately, the city was not helpful in our endeavors to go ahead and place said monitors. So all of the engagement and work that we've done has been through community. The first monitors that we placed in Joppe are actually on the property of residential homes. So we had to knock on doors, we had to canvass, we had to tell people what was going on, we had to inform them about, the issue that was there, and this is how we propose to begin some type of recourse or repair for that damage. And so for the last 3, 4 years now, we've been having steady monitoring going there, and it's available for everybody in the community to look at online at Shared Air DFW. And so at any point in time during the day, they can go onto that website. Wherever there is a monitor, they can see tangibly, okay, this is what the air quality is doing. So has it moved? industry, not quite yet, but I know if the air is bad, I don't want to let my babies play outside today. I need to keep my windows closed. Today is not a great day to air this out. And so from the air monitoring, more ideas were hatched, and we're like, well, how about we see how this air quality is actually affecting people? And so we have just in October of last year wrapped up the first community health study that has been done in the state of Texas on a community to look at the air quality that is specifically being experienced there, and looking at what is the correlation to people's thoughts about their environment and how is it actually affecting them. And so again, um, everything community based. We got community to sit down and look at the survey that we were doing and say, hey, does this make sense for us to ask people in your community? Is it worded right? How do you want to deploy this? And so everything about that project was community driven. And so, long story short, I think that that is the basis of all of our organizing, is to not only do something that we think is going to help the community, but to inform the community and empower them to make the decisions for themselves that is going to affect them in the long run. So, I've said a whole lot of words. Are there any questions? Because I can talk about this stuff all day long.
Well, and what I want to emphasize on what Misty said, this is the benefit of having grassroots organizing, because the ideas come from the communities who are themselves impacted and therefore most willing to do something about it. So since the study, since the air monitoring, we have had actual removal of industry. Last summer, Austin Asphalt shut down and left the neighborhood, the first sign of deindustrialization yet. The meeting we're at tonight is actually to change the future land use of the neighborhood to prevent any future industries from coming in. So this is all feeding on itself. But I see Miss Thompson has a question.
Yeah, thank you. Just for those folks who don't know where Joppe is, or the harm that has been perpetrated on them, will you give us a quick history of where the community is, how it's been trapped behind a railroad area, and some of the other issues that they've faced, and then some of the beauty of Joppe? Like if you stand in Joppe, you can look across the river and you can see this beautiful vision of downtown, and the trees there are amazing and the people are amazing. But right next to Joppe is this all this heavy industry that's just completely not appropriate. So I've given a sort of a background, but if you'll like actually tell that story better, that would be great.
So, Joppy. Y'all are in Richardson, so I'm sure somebody on this call has taken 45 South, right? You have gotten on 45 to get out of Dallas. Joppy, when you get just north of 20, right at Loop 12, you can't see it from the freeway. It's hiding behind the railroad tracks, the industry, and the trees. The exit is actually Linfield. That is the first exit. It's between Linfield and Loop 12. It's literally, I want to say Joppy is about 15 streets deep. Uh, it's like I said, it's a freedman town. It was gifted to slaves that were freed by the man that owned the land, and they kept it. The railroad track was not always there, but of course, it's right off of the river. And at that point in time, what was the river good for? Transportation. And so it was a port. And so at some point in time, the railroad came. Before the railroad came, the actual city of Joppe, or that space, it was bigger. There were homes on both sides of where the railroad is. But as time went on, that land was purchased. Those people were moved between the railroad and the river. And then industry began to build along that little corridor. And so I think that should kind of give y'all an idea of where it is. Joppe is very beautiful. It is very green. It's one of those places, like my grandmother used to say, if you drop a seed, it's going to grow. And so you have this very serene, beautiful country feel to a neighborhood that it doesn't feel like it's in the city, but it is. So it's gorgeous. A lot of older homes still there. I know that there's been talk of doing a historic overlay to be able to keep the character of the neighborhood. So yeah, I definitely encourage y'all to go look at it and see the beauty that is surrounded by Austin asphalt. Um, the rail
Amco.
yard, big piles of crushed rock. A lot of times you will see a stop train. They actually had a train derailment toward the end of last year, and that sat there for a good moment because doesn't mess with the beauty that is Dallas as people see the skyline. So it wasn't a priority to get cleaned up just right.
And what I'll add, this exact pattern of concentrating industrial polluters adjacent to freedmen towns, adjacent to communities of color, is one of the kind of foundational land use principles that was applied to many of the cities across the US, and Dallas is just like that. And so further along the river, we have West Dallas, which maybe you all are familiar with because they were home to a lead smelter up until the 80s. But both West Dallas and Joppe have two of the highest polluting industries left in the city center, GAF and TAMCO, and they both produce asphalt roofing shingles. Their shingles were the ones that Misty and I consistently saw dumped at Shingle Mountain, which you may have heard of a couple years ago. So when we were fighting for the closure and cleanup of Shingle Mountain, which has now been successfully accomplished thanks to 3 years of work, we realized there was a broader ecosystem of these asphalt shingles. And so I want to plug, because I'm not sure how much time we have, I want to plug our Earth Day activities that we're having this weekend that revolve around calling on the city of Dallas to address both of these toxic twins, GAF and TAMCO, 80-year-old facilities that are not, producing in a safe way and are negatively impacting both of these Black and brown communities and all of our city, right? We're all breathing the same air, just some are closer to the issue than others. So I dropped the link in the chat. We have a teach-in all day Saturday, the 20th at Friendship West Baptist Church. We have a rally on Sunday afternoon right across from the facility in West Dallas. And then there's actually some volunteers who are going to be committing acts of civil disobedience on Monday. And we've been working on these issues in these neighborhoods for the last 7 years. So it may seem like, wow, these people are extreme. No, what's extreme is the city not doing something for 80 years, right? So we've dropped that link there. And if you have any questions, we're more than happy to answer. And we sincerely hope we can see you all in person at some point this weekend, because it'll be a great time.
Yeah, thank you. I'll make sure that that link and all those activities you posted are make it in the description on our video as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube, look down right down here. All these wonderful events and links to them are there for you to take action. Any other questions that we have for these two speakers? I know they've covered a lot very quickly, so I do appreciate it. We're great on time, by the way. So if anybody does have anything they'd like to ask about, then feel free.
Yes, Mr. Barr. You're muted.
Dorian, you're muted.
Preston, you can
Yeah.
unmute him.
Oh, he's lost his video too. All right. Dorian, we still not hearing you. Hang on. That's not letting me force him unmuted. Yeah.
Ah.
Dorian, you should have a little pop-up there asking you if you would like to unmute.
Oh my gosh.
There
Thank
we go.
you. Finally.
Yes.
Well, okay, I'm working off a cell phone right now because I had another meeting
And I literally came out to the car and I thought, okay, I'm going to log in. So I'm working off this big of a screen and I'm trying to go back and forth. So anyway, long story short, anyway, love Evelyn, love listening to that information. And I think that was, I love sustainability, and I'm very passionate about sustainability. I mean, I work in the industry of architecture, interior design, and design build, and through commercial and residential. So there's a lot of products out there today that are being brought to market that are allowing this to dissipate because of those reasons. Because obviously we've used composition tile for so many years that it's a huge industry, but there are so many things that can replace that. And it's something that we're working on internally with our firm, just to create more sustainable products and be able to specify more sustainable products. And I just, it sort of resonates with me personally. So anything I can do to help advocate for this, and I'm doing it with city council at the moment. It's something, I don't know if y'all ever watch some of the Monday night meetings, when we have moments like people are bringing things to the council to discuss any zoning or building or anything that might be added to Richardson from economic development or even capital projects. You'll hear me talk about, what can we do to create sustainability? What materials can be specified? Are we considering this? Are we considering water conservation? So, and I don't want to drag this out tonight. I just wanted to make a good comment and I got in on this late and I heard that and I just thought, that resonates with me and I love it. So, I appreciate y'all thinking about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you, and we would love to talk offline. You're welcome to share your email via Ginny or Preston, and we can get connected.
Thank you.
Okay, just checking if there's any more hands raised. We have a lot of people who are here audio only, so let me just scroll through. Let's see. All right, no, looks like that was it. Last call. Anybody, any final thoughts or questions for our wonderful guests who have been so kind to join us this evening?
And I'll just put my email in the chat in case anyone thinks of something later tonight.
Yeah, and I'll make sure, guys, that also shows up in the description for the video as well. So if you don't happen to catch it now, you'll be able to catch it on the back end. So thank you guys very much. Evelyn, good luck with the vote and with the public engagement that you guys are having tonight. So hopefully that goes well. Okay, let me unpin.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Take care.
Great.
Oh, I've never heard.
There you go. Okay. Well, next up, this is our final speaker tonight. We have Miss Cheryl Jackson. She is an elementary school math teacher, and she spent the last 20 plus years working very, very hard to convince Dallas area students that math can be fun. An uphill, endless battle, I'm sure, but she's doing great work. She's here tonight to talk to us about school board governance with a call to action around what we can do as concerned citizens to support our school board in their charge to bring the best in RISD students, and also those around the area. So let me see where Cheryl went. There she is. And here we go. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi there.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I plan to join RAD in the lead up to early voting. But as you know, our school board, we don't have an election this go round because the 2 seats that were up were unopposed. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different tack in terms of a call to action. But before I get into all that, I want to talk a little bit about myself, just so you know who I am. I am, yes, I'm a school teacher, and I've taught here in Dallas for 24 years. This is my 24th year. I am originally from California, so I am one of those, don't California my Texas. It's me, this person right here. My mother actually was from Dallas. She went to Booker T. Washington High School at a time when Black students could only go to a few schools, and Booker T was one of them. My dad was from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. He was born in 1942. That puts him as he was 1 year younger than Emmett Till. So you have kind of a picture of what his youth was like. My parents met, and I'm talking about my parents because I can't really talk about me without talking about them, and my educational journey without talking about them. They met at Tennessee State. They got married. My dad enlisted in the Air Force, and he was stationed in California. I'm sure whatever he did, he was not returning to Mississippi. That was not happening in 1960 or 1961, when they graduated. So they definitely left the South under the idea that they were creating a better life for themselves and their family. My sisters and I, there are three of us, were all born and raised in California. Again, based on my parents' background, education was very much stressed in our household. We were all, you better bring some A's in this house. Do not bring B's. Do not bring C's. So there may or may not have been times where I hid my report card because I didn't want to get in trouble with my dad. I ended up going to UC Berkeley. I was a social sciences major, and I wasn't an education major right off the bat. I didn't know that I wanted to be a teacher at that time. I ended up being a social worker, and I worked at that time. That would have been the late 90s, mid to late 90s. And at that time, there was welfare to work programming, and I worked with teenage parents. And so my role as a social worker was to do home visits with the idea that I was helping to push students back into school. I did that for a few years, and it was very rewarding, not very well paid. And in the nonprofit world, it was not super stable in terms of funding and stuff. However, the connection to education was still there because I was on the outside pushing students in. I ended up going back to school and becoming a teacher. I felt like it was, in an odd way, very roundabout way, it was a calling. So I started teaching in California. My parents, everybody was in California. My parents got divorced. My mom moved back to Dallas. She bought a home in Richardson. She brought my sisters out to college in Texas. My mom got remarried to my dad. So my dad moved to Texas, to Richardson. And then at that time, I was just turning 30. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think they call it a quarter life crisis now. I'm having a crisis. I don't know what's going on with my life. And I moved to Richardson to my parents' spare bedroom. As soon as I hit town, I was hired in DISD. And so I've worked in DISD ever since. Fast forward, I started a family of my own, and I had a son who eventually would enter into RASD. I've lived in Richardson, pretty much all of his life. So he's 21 now. He's gone to Dartmouth, which when we first started at Dartmouth, they had a whole other mascot. So a lot of changes have happened in Richardson since I've been here. He went to Apollo, and then he graduated in 2021 at Berkner. So I have the insider kind of view of education, and then I also have the outsider view of education as a parent. And so in all ways, what's the Joni Mitchell song? From both sides now. I could see it from both sides. And I wanted to kind of figure out a place to put my passion for education, because it's definitely a passion that first came from my parents, embodied in me professionally, and then passed on to my son. So one of the ways that I've been able to extend or expand or put to use my passion for education is through a fellowship with Leadership ISD. And Leadership ISD is a nonprofit organization that basically we meet every month, and we just do a lot of learning around equity, school financing, student achievement data, anything education related, we're studying it and doing a deep dive into it. And so one of the kind of main points of study for us has been school board governance. Now, for me being in Richardson, I've been super proud at what we've done in terms of our activism as an informed kind of electorate around our school board. Our school board looks a lot different than it did when I first came here in 2000. And it's through hard work from many of the people on this screen and other people throughout the community who've, made that happen. So my hope tonight is to kind of give us a spark to how we can support our school board and really help to make it be super effective in making sure that all students are experiencing success, education in RAs, in and around RISD. I think I have something that I can drop in the, can I do that? There we go. So I have a document that I was going to kind of share with you all that looks at one facet of school board governance, and that's goal setting. And so we looked at RISD, that was my focus because that's where I live. And we compared it with districts around the Metroplex. And what we were looking at is what does goal setting look like? How are the goals kind of monitored? And what kind of discussions are had around whether or not the goals are reached, whether or not the goals have been, the goal setting has been effective, the goal monitoring has been kind of effective. And what I noticed with RISD is they definitely had goals, but what differentiated other school districts from RISD, not all, because not everybody did this, was something that we call goal progress measures. And so RISD has, I think, 3 or 4 main goals that they have publicly available to us to kind of look at and examine. And they're basically student outcome goals. So they'll say something like, see if I can read one. One of RISD's goals is the percent of students in 3rd grade who scored the meets level or above on STAR reading will increase from 49% to 60% by June 2027. And so they have 3 student outcome goals. What makes them, kind of sets them apart from, let's say, a district like DeSoto ISD. DeSoto ISD also has student outcome goals, but in addition to the student outcome goals, they have what are called goal progress measures. And so when I think about kind of the difference between a student outcome goal and then the goal progress measures, I think about it kind of like, I don't know, when I'm thinking about a number on the scale and I have that as a goal, and I say to myself by summertime, I'm going to have this certain number on the scale. I know that in order for me to get there, I can't just have that stated goal. I do also have to have some incremental kind of places where I have a benchmark. Maybe I have a weekly something where I check in with myself and say, well, I know eating this kind of way or exercising this much or drinking this kind of water is going to get me closer to my goal. And so I'll have those kind of benchmarks either every week, every month, as I'm trying to make progress to my kind of my big stated goal. And so RISD right now, in terms of the publicly available goals that they've communicated to us, basically is just at the student outcome goal level. And what I would like to kind of my call to action for us is to reach out to our trustees not in an adversarial way. I mean, we've been to I know I have, to the school board meetings where people are screaming about, I don't know what they were screaming about, just a lot of stuff. So not adversarially, but in a way that we're good faith partners with the people that we've now kind of put there to be good stewards over what's happening in RISD. So definitely in a way that's more of an advocate as opposed to an adversary. And I know in the last presentation, there was mention of, showing up and, kind of the loud people on the mic kind of set the tone. So not in that way, but just in a way where we can um, kind of get our support the folks that we really fought hard to kind of occupy those seats, to kind of help us not kind of fine tune the goal setting that we've done, and really kind of look at how we're measuring those goals and who the goals are benefiting, who is actually reaching the goals. So I think that's kind of what I wanted to say. I'm not here to say overthrow the board. All I love the board. I definitely my person, seat 2. I campaigned for her, and I'm glad to have her. And so my charge to all of us and to myself is to see how we can really support our board to really serving our community in the best way possible.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Cheryl while we've still got her presence here with us tonight? I don't think I saw any hands pop up while you were talking, but if you did, now is the time. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Cheryl. That was excellent. Thank you again for being here and spending time chatting with us tonight about what you do, and thank you for teaching those kids the joys of math.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't think he's on currently, but I wanted to give a shout out to David Santucci. He's one of our RAD members who comes to pretty much everything. He was recognized by the Dallas County Democrat Party this week as their first precinct chair of the week. So, David, if you're watching this on YouTube, congratulations. Thank you for all that you do. We appreciate that. Also, I'd like to remind everyone of not this Saturday, next Saturday, we're going to be back at Staycation for another coffee and community. We're going to continue our focus on the environment. We're going to hear from a speaker named Amy Martin. She's the author of Wild DFW. That's a book about exploring the amazing nature around DFW area. We've got this wonderful Spring Creek Nature Preserve up here in Richardson as well. Amy's a journalist, writer for over 40 years, also an activist and a leader, serving on various environmental boards and organizations locally. So she's going to have some copies of her book for sale as well. So make sure that if you're interested in that you go and find the event on Mobilize. I'm sure Jenny will mention it in her next weekly email as well. And let's see, I think that's our last event for the month. And if you missed it, we had Beto on our book club. We had a Zoom book club meeting last week. That was pretty fun. He was talking about his book. We've Got to Try. It's about voting issues and why it's still key. It's just as relevant today as it was 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, and even further back. So that's on our YouTube channel as well. Make sure to go check it out. It was a pretty good meeting. He was very fired up about it. So with that, Pat, we've got you here. Anything I'm missing that we want to shout out to members about tonight?
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Oh, Pam just raised her hand. Pam, what do you got?
So, thank you so much for bringing awareness to this situation and to these issues, because when we talk about systemic racism, it's the fact that Joppe is still cut off from everything by the railroad tracks that are right next to it. So if you Google tour, if you go down 45 and you Google tour Lindale and you hop over the railroad tracks, there's a bridge now that you can go over the railroad tracks on into Joppe. But for years and years and years, there was no bridge. And so if the railroad decided to stop their trains on the only exit or entrance into Joppe. They just stopped their trains because they're the railroad. And they're pretty much more powerful than the federal government. And so folks like they couldn't get out of their own neighborhood. They couldn't go anywhere. They were stuck, trapped. And we would, a lot of us would never put up with that, but freedmen's towns have had to do this forever now. And then in West Dallas, where she was talking, so if you go over the Cool Bridge on Singleton West into West Dallas and you see all the new development out there, what Singleton used to be was a very industrial street, and the lead smelter was there. And when they decommissioned the lead smelter and when they were building houses out there, both, they took the trash from the lead smelter and they spread it as landfill in the neighborhood where there are houses now. So people can't play in their yards because the lead from the lead smelter was used as landfill underneath these houses. So when we talk about environmental justice, when we talk about systemic racism, these are the very real things that we're talking about, that that people are still, like, people live there, kids live there, kids grow up there, and they can't play in their backyards because there's still lead there. So anyway, I am so grateful that you are raising these issues because they're all still around and they're all still things that people need to fight and stand up against and make sure that we're advocates for, and that we raise voices and amplify other voices to make sure that we're aware of these things and that we vote accordingly. So that's all.
Thank you, Pam. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And, when we were talking about, April is Earth Month, we're just going to do, Earth Day type stuff. And what does it actually really mean? I think it was Jenny who drilled in on this environmental justice issue specifically. So it's, and unfortunately, she couldn't be here with us tonight. She's on vacation this evening. She had this thing planned for a while, but she'll be watching the video as well, and I'm sure commenting on all the thoughts that we've been making. So if you think of anything that we haven't brought up now, or as soon as we end the meeting, you go, I wish I'd said that. Do go to the YouTube video, where sometimes we do have some comment sections where there is some additional discussion. So feel free to do that as well. And on that note, again, thank you everyone for showing up tonight. Sorry we couldn't see your beautiful faces in person over at 4 Bullets, but we should have good weather next month and be back out for it then. So see you guys hopefully next weekend at Staycation, and if not, next month at 4 Bullets.